Each loader scale will come with a hydraulic fitting kit. That'll be dependent on what machine you have, but it's probably going to consist of something like a T or a flange fitting, an elbow to get to a 90-degree turn, a coupler, and then an adapter that will go on to your pressure transducer. So all this stuff will go together, and then you'll wind up with something like that. I've traced back my hydraulic lift cylinder lines. I found a good place to put my T's under here for the rod and cylinder connections. So make sure that bucket's supported either with the safety bracket provided by the manufacturer, or you can tilt the bucket down, and if you have a big enough machine you can still work underneath of it with the bucket on the ground. Relieve that pressure on the hydraulic system before you crack any hydraulic line to avoid getting sprayed. Potentially very dangerous situation. And once you have your safety stuff done, go ahead and start installing your pressure transducers. Okay, I've traced my hydraulic lines down to a spot where I can install a T. I've installed the piston side one already, and you can see this is where the rod one will go. So I'll break this connection here and install the T. We don't ever want to put the pressure transducers right out at the actual cylinder, because they'll be exposed to more potential danger and damage, and also they'll be moving up and down all the time with the piston or with the cylinder as the bucket moves up and down. Here is a shot of the pressure transducers. I traced the lines from the one cylinder on this machine down to where it comes out of the valve here, and installed T's. You can see this one's labeled piston, so that will go to the back end of the lift cylinder. And the other one here marked rod, that goes up to the rod end out here. Also, if you can try to install your sensors where the end of the sensor is kind of running uphill, that will allow any air that might be trapped in the sensor to hopefully escape out and go back through the system and out into the tank. Okay, you can see our proximity switches and our target. This is our target that goes by the proximity switches. The proximity switches need to be within approximately 4 millimeters from the face of the switch to the face of the target. The bottom proximity switch will be called proximity 1. The top one will be called proximity 2. And then when your back pin is level with your front pin, your bucket pin down here, when those are level, the top of your target should be at position of the proximity switch number 1 to start the weighing process. The power cable that's supplied with the scale is labeled red positive, and your black will be your ground, neutral. We will typically go into the fuse panel and do an add a fuse, and then you have to find your own ground. This system can handle 12 or 24 volts. Your other option would maybe be going into the cab and finding a power supply like at a light switch, or maybe an ignition key area, and powering it up that way. Mounting your indicator and routing the wires. So you need to get obviously the wire for the indicator into the cab, and then this is the MIDAC or the computer brain, and it has quite a bit of wire attached to it. We'd like you to try to get this in the cab area protected, and if that's not possible, if there's just not enough room, we'd recommend putting it out of the weather and maybe up underneath the cab if possible, and tying it up to some hoses or whatever you can up there with quite a few tie wraps. The power cable is, there's quite a bit of power cable provided. You probably won't need all of that, depending on the size of your machine or where you find your power supply, 12 or 24 volts. So feel free to cut any extra of the power cable that you may not need. This is what the indicator will look like when it's turned on. You can see right in the middle there it says off. It will not weigh anything in this position. To go into the normal scale mode, just to touch the home button. Now you'll see the words lift up. Your scale will come set up as much as we can from the dealership, but it will not be calibrated. You will need to calibrate the scale for your individual machine. I'm going to show you some more additional features on the Walz loader scale. If we hit F3 data logger, it's going to show us all the past loads, so the date and the time, the total load, and the number of buckets in that load. There is also room for more information, like customer name, material, operator, project, truck. That wasn't inputted for this, but that is available. Go back, and then you can page down F10 to see more, or page back up. always get out by touching the home button. There's more settings on F10. You can see the manual by pushing the F2 button. Might take a little bit to load. You can hit F3 information. It's going to give you your sensor diagnostics. And you have your printer. F5. Change your screen brightness. Search in pounds, metric ton, short ton, kg. There. Time and date, F9. Simply touching the box to change one. This should just be like, change that to 9 o'clock. Yeah, it should be good now. Go back and look. So there you go. Change it to AM or PM. Also change the way it displays the month and the day, or the day and the month. This is how your indicator will look when it's first turned on. It does say off, so it's not in weighing mode right now. To get it to weigh mode, you need to just touch the home button, and then you'll see it change to lift up. You will need to calibrate your own scale for your machine. That is something we cannot do here at our shop. All machines are different, so you will need to calibrate it yourself. To start the calibration procedure, we're going to go into settings, go F10. Then we want to go to advanced, F10 again. And we're going to go to calibration, F4. It's going to ask for the password. The password's 6343. And you can see it's going to come up to your different calibration points. Your empty cal, your first load, your second load, your third load, and your fourth load. Your first load will be your lighter of the loads, then you want to increase gradually up to about a full bucket for load 4. You can start with do empty calibration, so hit F3. It is now showing us the status, which is I want you to lift up, the number of lifts, and your pressure in the system. So there's currently 32 bar, and I already did 15 lifts. So we can delete this calibration by hitting delete and then delete again up here. Now it shows 0 lifts, so we're ready to begin. So we want to start at high idle, curl the bucket all the way back, and go to high idle, and then do the lift. So beginning to lift, going through the switch, and the lift went to number 1. We recommend doing multiple lifts at multiple speeds. So I'm going to continue coming down about 100 RPM. So So it's about 2100. I'm going to go to 2000 and work my way down. So I'm going to do another lift to 2000. And that one is completed. Go all the way back down. Now I will go to 1900 and this will be the last one I show you. This one. So there's weighing point or calibration point 3. Once you've done them all, say 9 or 10 or how many ever, you hit the F1 button, and then you can go into your load number 1 calibration. We're going to do the same thing there. We're going to start with a heavy or a lighter weight, and lift that at multiple speeds, starting with the faster RPM first. Once you know your weight of the material you're lifting, you can input that by hitting F9. You see here that this one I use 738 pounds. Make sure that if you want to read in pounds, that it says pounds here, or you can hit F9, change the kg. You see it did the math automatically there for me, or go back to pounds, and then hit OK, F10, and then you continue doing all your lifts, and then hit your F1 to go back, then continue on, do your load 2, your load 3, your load 4. And then once you're done with that, you can go to F1. It's going to ask you if you want to discard or save. We want to save the calibration, so hit F8. Once it's done that, you now have a calibrated scale. The next thing we would recommend doing is zeroing the bucket. So we want you to hit F9. It's asking you to just please do an empty lift. So my bucket is empty still there, so I'm going to go ahead and do a lift. And it says that it was successful. Come back down, and then I'm going to hit F1. Now the scale is calibrated and zeroed and ready to weigh your material. Okay, we're going to start using the scale. I have some CA6 white rock material here I want to weigh. So I'm going to go into the pile. Up some material. Now I'm ready to weigh it. You can do this while you're rolling, but for safety reasons I'm gonna stop. So now we're just going to simply have the bucket rolled all the way back. You can go up to whatever speed you feel comfortable at. Pull your lift lever all the way back until it goes through the switch, and there displays your weight. So now I'm going to dump. what I just lifted. The second one is our total number of lifts and our total. So I'm going to get another bucket here and weigh it. Do my lift. Bucket was all the way back. That one is saying 26.22, and the total there is at the top of the last two lifts. Once we've loaded the truck and we want to start over, clear the total, all you have to do is hit F6, delete the total load, F6 again, delete, and we're back to 0 buckets with a 0 total, and you're ready to start the next truck.